Hello to all. This is Melton Guy with another little message for you, podcast. A short one, I think. I never know, but I say that a lot, but turns out sometimes it's not so short. But I think this is going to be a short one. I'm going to try to keep it that way through the holidays, so that I'm not giving myself a break or you a break from me. It's just so I don't want to keep it light because I cannot do that. But I do want to be less abrasive if I can be. And if keeping it short is the only way I can do that, then I'm going to try to do it that way. I think that I have come to this podcast today to ask this question. Will the hypocrisy never end? Will Trump's and MAGA's disdain for the United States of America bring our democracy to its proverbial knees? Yeah, I asked that question. But I also have to throw in, or has that already happened? You be the judge. Church is a joke now, as far as I can see. When they had the opportunity to stand up for what they supposedly believed in, very strong, they failed to do so. Matter of fact, they took the very opposite approach. They endorsed many times this tyrant, this vile neighbor of ours, Donald John Trump. So the church will never be the same. And, I'm not alone in this. There are millions out there that are saying they will never go back to church because it doesn't mean what it used to mean. And that's what it is for me. No. Will I ever change? Again, like I said before, I'll leave a little space in my heart and in my head to put that if I ever can. Will I ever want to? I don't know. I've been hurt by the church. In the church for a long time, not only me, but my father, most of my family in the church preaching as ministers. So I've been hurt because what I used to learn and what they used to teach does not go side by side with what's taking place today and what has taken place since 2016. I will say that. And again, we talk about this country being brought to its knees. Do you think that we live in a democracy now? Don't fool yourself. Do you think that the Supreme Court, and I say that laughably, will be the leader? Do you think Donald Trump will take his orders from the Supreme Court, that he'll do what the Supreme Court says to do? Or will the Supreme Court take its cue from Donald Trump? I think you know the answer to that. As I say, the handwriting has been on the wall, and it certainly still is on the wall. Do you think we have checks and balances like we used to? No, we do not. We absolutely do not have checks and balances. There is no balance of power. There is no place to where one branch of the government has to go for reckoning, because they end up in the lap of the greatest demagogue and tyrant this country has ever known. Now, if that makes you voters for Trump mad, I'm very sorry. But I'm certainly not the only one saying it. And I don't mind saying it. We do not know what's about to happen. If you take the words of Donald Trump and the cabinet members that the proposed cabinet members that he has chosen, there's going to be payback for anybody that disagreed with Donald Trump or with their position. Well, here's how I stand on that. I've had my life threatened. I don't know. I've been warned. Let's put it that way. What that means is, I don't know. I've been warned. But let me just say it this way, so you'll all know, if you're out there, how I stand, where I stand, and what I intend to do continuously. There used to be the question that would go around in the church, the thing of the past, and they said if a foreign government came into this country and started trying the Christians and convicting them, would there be enough evidence in your life to convict you? Well, from that, here's what I wanted to say. In the future, whatever they do, and whatever they say, and whatever they intend to do, and what comes about, whatever it causes me, I want there to be no question about there being enough evidence to convict me of standing against this tyrant, seen that way by not only me, but many in this country and by most of the world. I mean, do I like being made fun of by other governments? No, I do not. I heard someone from MAGA say the other day, we don't care. We're the United States. We can do anything we want to. I don't care whether they like us or not. I do. I like respect. Reciprocated. But where do you think we stand? Have we been brought to our proverbial knees? Or will we? What prompted one of the reasons today I'd planned to do this Thursday, do something Thursday, was just mulling over the fact that Donald Trump opened his mouth, his lying, vile mouth, to complain about Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden, his son. Now, I'm not saying I agree with Joe Biden doing that or not. It's not for me to say, but I do have room to complain. I do. As anyone else, for or against. We have room to make statements on that. Donald Trump has none. Now, what I want you to understand, you like the Bible. You say what it is to you, and of course that's been proven that you do not. But anyway, you still say you do, but we all know you don't. When I say you, I'm talking to you voters of Donald Trump. If you're out there and you're listening to me, you're not a voter of Donald Trump. This is just what I want you to pass on to others if you find the courage to do so. But Matthew, let's take that. Matthew 7 verses 3 through 5 says boldly, you hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. Now that's pretty forward, but it's pretty obvious what it means too. Don't judge others when you're guilty of what you're judging them about. Hunter Biden's pardon. Got to be one of those things that'll, like water under a bridge, that'll be gone. But just the idea that Donald Trump could say one thing about that. Let me just give you some names, just so you'll know from where I'm coming. Paul Erickson. None of you know him. No, I don't expect you to. Convicted of wire fraud and money laundering. Paul Erickson. Frederick Nahas, obstruction of justice in a health care investigation. Amy Povah, conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance, conspiracy to import a controlled substance, and money laundering. Joshua James Smith, conspiracy to possess and distribute marijuana and conspiracy to process and distribute cocaine. David Tynan, conspiracy to obstruct justice, destruction, alteration, falsification of records. Does that sound familiar? Aiding and abetting, causing an act to be done, a felonious act. Accessory after the fact, obstruction of justice, aiding and abetting criminals. That's David Tynan. Alex Ajmi, money laundering, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Fred Alford, firearms violation, interstate sale of firearms by federal firearms licensees. Jessica Jean Fries, Lord Armstrong, bank embezzlement. Gregory Jorgensen, Deborah Jorgensen, Martin Jorgensen, Deborah and Gregory, conspiracy, misbranding or falsifying, wire fraud, mail fraud, and then Martin, conspiracy, misbranding, and William Cale, healthcare fraud, pretty serious healthcare fraud. The names go on and on and on, and the crimes sometimes get worse and worse and worse. Some not so much, but they get worse. But you couldn't believe the names that go on and on and on. And who are these people? These are people pardoned by that complainer who dares to open his mouth, Donald John Trump. He pardoned all these people. All of them many of them have committed similar crimes to what Donald Trump committed. You notice I didn't say allegedly committed, I said committed. The proof is there, whether you want to see it or not. But he pardoned these people and then has the gall, well, because he's Donald Trump, to stand there and pass judgment on someone else, on Joe Biden. And you take that all in with the fact that Donald Trump has been given passes by the Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, of crimes of theft, crimes of manslaughter, crimes of rape, crimes of bankrupting of so many Americans to bolster his own wallet, crimes of treason, crimes of leading an attempted coup of the USA government, the intended crime, at least against humanity, of pardoning all the insurrectionists, and that would include him, the crime against the church at the very least, of lying over and over again about the 2020 election and everything arising from that lie that has caused so much havoc across this country. All because he could not face the fact that Joe Biden beat him in the election. He cannot stand to be defeated. He cannot stand to lose. He cannot even appear to be a loser. That destroys him. The fact that Joe Biden beat him in that election ate him up and tore his insides out. He was a raw nerve throughout his body. And he intends to do something about it. Not him personally. He's a coward. Donald Trump is a coward, a proven coward. No, he'll have somebody else take care of all of that. He'll go hide in his little office or his little wherever he does his little chats he does online. I don't know what he uses, X, Twitter, whatever they call it these days. I don't mess with it because they're all a bunch of crap, to put it lightly. But he could not face the fact that Joe Biden beat him in the election. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You may not believe this, and you don't have to. It's not going to make it happen any other way, though. History will treat Joe Biden very well. History will treat Joe Biden as the president that came in after Donald Trump took a great economy and ran it into the ground. Now, he'll tell you just the opposite, but he didn't bother to check that, did you? No, you didn't. He'll tell you he had the best economy the country's ever seen when he left office. That's a lie. He had the worst. He put this country so far in debt, unemployment jumped from in the 3% range to almost the 8% range under his administration. He's the only president to ever go out with a negative job gain. Negative. History will treat Joe Biden very well because he took this country, and whether you want to believe it or not, he took this country when we were in the throes of the pandemic after Donald Trump made it such a monster out of this thing by not handling it the way he should have. He killed thousands of people. No, you don't see it that way. Check it out. If you will, but you won't. Because Donald Trump said, "I'll tell you, no, don't do that. You don't want to get too woke. You're all a bunch of puppets if you do not go and check on this man that you voted for. A bunch of puppets. And not even funny ones." But Joe Biden took this country at that time, and he had the greatest job growth in the history of this country. And that's true. And you can check that out too. The greatest job growth. Things were so bad in the minds of people because we were going through the pandemic. There was shutdowns. But Joe Biden held fast, and he brought us through that. And any world leader will tell you right now that it is because of the United States that the World Bank is in greater shape as it is right now, because Joe Biden led this country through that pandemic. And let me get this straight before you start taking off on groceries and gas. The president has very little to do with the gas prices. Has very little to do with grocery prices. When gas went up under Ronald Reagan for a while, when it went up under Jimmy Carter for a while, they even went up under George W. Bush. That was not their fault. They were blamed for it, but it was not their fault. And for things to happen in the way they happened, when inflation got so high, inflation only happens when you have a perfect storm. Now, admittedly, Joe Biden's package to help the people out during the pandemic when people were out of work, that helped contribute to inflation, but it would not have done it alone. There was wars going on in the Ukraine, in the Middle East. OPEC was showing its butt, trying to gain an upper hand. And then the pandemic, dealing with the pandemic on top of it, and dealing with Donald Trump, who was a little boy, so mad that he got beat, that he would see this country go up in ashes before he would admit that he lost to Joe Biden. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. You don't have to listen to me. Go check it out, but you will not do it. You will not do it. History will not be so kind to Donald Trump. I assure you, it will not be kind to Donald Trump. This is one of the reasons I do this. What's it going to change? I do not know. What I do, there are many of the me's out there that are trying to do a little bit here and a little bit there. There's some big ones out there being heard a lot more than what I am and some others like me. But we do our little bit. But the reason I do it for selfish reasons, because I want everybody to know down the road, I want everybody to know that I never bought in to the vileness. I never drank the Kool-Aid that you Trump voters drink in order to become a trusted member of the cult and find favor with your cult leader, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is about retribution because he got beat in 2020. He couldn't stand the fact that he got beat. And then after all these things that happened under Joe Biden, like he accused Joe Biden of coming after him, Joe Biden never went after him. It were the courts. It were the laws in this country that at that time were working somewhat, trying to bring a criminal to justice. And now he's going to go after Jack Smith. Says Jack Smith should be deported along with all those immigrants that are here for one reason or another, or anybody that's crazy, as he put it. Something wrong with them. You know who also said that? Tired of hearing it? Adolf Hitler said the same thing. You know, we never hear so much about who went to these prison camps, who went to these death houses. We hear about the Jews. But, you know, there were people, if they were considered gypsies, they were right in the same place as the Jews were. Anybody that could not support themselves, like handicapped people, as they called them back then, people in wheelchairs, people who had brain injuries, many of them died in those camps. And that's the way Hitler intended it. You can take from that what you want to. You can deny all you want to. Until this country is no more. I was reading a book the other day. It was kind of hard to read because it was translated from German into English, and I don't think the person who did that did a great job. But anyway, he told a story about a man in 1933 in Germany when he realized that Hitler had gained power and would be the man in charge for a while. He said he's the sheer enemy. Well, see, I didn't know what enemy meant. So I looked it up. A-N-O-M-E. And it means a state of normlessness or breakdown of social norms and values, often resulting in confusion and disintegration within a society. Thinking of the passes by Republicans of Donald Trump. And now some Democrats are saying, let's pardon Donald Trump. No. They're starting to give in a little bit to wanting a little taste of the Kool-Aid. One representative from South Carolina, a Democrat, says he ought to pardon Donald Trump. Well, I think who should be pardoned is that representative from South Carolina, pardoned right out of office. He's not fit to be there, in my opinion. And from what I heard, a lot of other people now. But those are the type of people that gave the passes for manslaughter and rape and all kinds of things. You can name a crime and just about attach Donald Trump's name to it. So I don't get it. All he has to do is say, I didn't do that. That's all she wrote. That's justice for MAGA. Donald Trump said he didn't do it. I'm not guilty of it. I'm not guilty of anything. And all these people on this MAGA, they still have these ideas of putting the Bible back in schools and teaching it as history, which is ridiculous. The Bible has never been, never will be an historical document. And whatever happened to the idea that parents were supposed to teach their children right from wrong? And you open up a can of worms when you start talking about this kind of thing. But the church and religion is coming out of their mouth, but they're not practicing what we all know is Christianity. Now I said I'm not your Christian. I believe in God, and I believe that I know in my head what's right and what's wrong, and I believe most everybody does too. So what is the problem? That's the question that needs to be answered. What is your problem? How do you give a pass to this man? How do you look back on his life and what he's done and give him a pass? My wife and I took a survey of over 400 teachers across this country. 401, including my daughter, who is also a teacher. And they said that they can trace the word effing, F-U-C-K-I-N-G, as becoming a great adjective since Donald Trump allowed people to say anything they want to. The N-word, they said, was coming back into prominence. I mean, whatever they mean by it, they're saying it out in the open. And at the very least, we'd stop saying it, trying not to hurt people, trying to love people. That's what we should be about. But instead, we're hammering on the desk, saying, let's put this Bible back in the church. All the while committing some of the most gruesome crimes in this country, headed by Donald Trump. So an ending. I don't want to beat a dead horse. You may say I've already have, but bear with me this one last thing. Ending this. I ask this based on your knowledge of, or your love of your local church, or based on your love and knowledge of your Bible that you say you hold so dearly next to your heart. Based on those two principles alone, I ask sincerely, if MAGA, well, let's forget MAGA. Let me just ask with Donald Trump in mind. If Donald Trump is a Christian, then who isn't? If you will, reach down and hit that like button, subscribe if you can take it, share if you will. And I will say, remember my book, The Offspring of Ignorance, and my wife's book, Leaving Small Town, both found on Amazon by Sue Guy, Leaving Small Town, Jamie Elton Guy, The Offspring of Ignorance. I really believe you'll like them. I liked her book so much, I've read it 3 times now. But that's up for you to decide. But at least go out and check it out. Find it. You might be tempted to hit that button and buy. Believe it or not, I do love you all, and back in my heart, I have everyone's best interest. I pray to God that you will check out some of the things I said today and ponder that question that I left you with. If Donald Trump is a Christian, then who isn't? I'll see you on the next roundup.